What's good, y'all, and welcome to another vid. Today's topic is going to be Falcia and her importance in 2025, her importance in the current state of the game. And I'm not gonna talk around it much longer. Her banner is tomorrow, so I kind of wanted to show you the ways I could think of that you can effectively use a Falcia, so you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into, and also overall, yeah, what you can expect from her and if she's even worth considering, especially with all these other limiteds, with Diao, with Kigiri, with all of them being confirmed for like later down the line with the anniversary, including a limited most likely and all that further stuff. So yeah, that is today's topic, Falcia. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. We'll be starting it off with Gear Dungeon 2 Stage 10. We're also obviously taking a look at Abyss, right? We'll try out a Esotericist comp. But first off, I want to show you this Gear Dungeon 2 stage, because it's kind of fun. It is kind of fun, and that has to do with Falcia and her ability to put out magical and physical damage. Or is it? Because, so, what Falcia does, she does equal amounts magical and equal amounts physical damage, which leads to her hitting the clone for X amount of damage and then healing the clone for X amount of damage. So overall, no, she doesn't actually damage the clones, but how can she then take on the physical and magical clones? It all lies in the true damage. So, Demon Slaying Stance says you increase your attack by 25% and your basic attack will now deal an extra 200% true damage, as well as your ultimate will deal 1500% true damage. And just this source of true damage is what allows this Falcia to just solo the middle lane of Gear Dungeon 2, together with an Oleg in front of her. And for that, it also requires a very specific build, which is why we'll talk about this Falcia build, then we'll go into the fight, do the fight, and then talk about the rest of the builds after. And that is because we're relying on true damage, what we're looking for is the Soulbound Arcana set in full attack percent. So we have attack percent as well as attack speed. Crit rate and crit damage technically don't play a role because interestingly enough, true damage obviously cannot crit. So technically, as long as you have attack percent and attack speed, you're good. Same as here, attack percent, attack speed, attack percent, attack speed, attack percent, attack speed, the crit rate. Then again, you never really see a weapon like this used because you obviously want crit damage. And then also down here, attack percent, crit rate, attack speed. For the artifact, we have the Translucent Delusion Flame, which is her exclusive, which gives us more single target damage. But most importantly, it extends the duration of the Demon Slaying Stance. So instead of 6, you're in it 8 seconds, giving you more basic attacks that deal the true damage. As well as also very important, when your ultimate is triggered, you are guaranteed to enter the Demon Slaying Stance, meaning every single ultimate does end with the 5 slashes of 300% true damage, and that is very important. It's a very important part of why she's even able to do this. So without further ado, let's get straight into the stage. Other notable heroes, we have Volker for AoE, obviously some tiny healing, but it's not the main focus. We have Edith for pushbacks. Yes, you can also use a Borrowed, you can try a Cyclone. Those are just more finicky, and at that point I would recommend like a Lubu or an Ardea instead of Volker behind the Edith, just so you have an easier time eliminating these units. And then we have a Elwyn who pretty much just ties this whole strategy together. And we're going to go into it with the with Ardea. So here obviously we have the Bloodbath. Nothing crazy happening, we're just waiting for us to get the cost so that we can also place down Assault. And then as soon as obviously the Banshee, right, Screaming Banshee dies, we want to push it back so that our units do not get imploded, as well as start placing down Falcia as soon as we have the cost for it, as well as once again the ability to fast forward time. Once this boss crosses the band, we can also already activate Estrid's ultimate as well as Isolde. Doesn't truly make a difference, and once these enemies close in, we want to start off with Volker's ultimate. Now, as soon as we hit the 18 cost mark, we can bring in Oleg, and then from here on out, we don't really have to trigger anything crazy. Boss comes in, and now this is where this fight gets it just feels weird. It doesn't feel like you're doing the right thing, because look at the HP bar of the boss. Goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up. There you see like the huge true damage, and now it just stays, right? It just stays. It feels wrong on so many levels. Laura is just there, so if at some point we've fucked up the timings for our Laurel, we can place in an emergency Laurel to give ourselves extra rage to Astrid, so that with her ultimate we can take care of these enemies so that they don't run past her. So she's kind of like our emergency save button. And the reason why Lunaria is here is so that Hex can reach in front of Isolde. Otherwise Hex wouldn't be able to reach from there. And the reason why he's down there is pretty much just convenience. It is the convenience of not having to worry about him being up here and being killed by the archers. So it's just a matter of convenience. Huh? And then again here, these ult hits. Damage, healing, damage, healing. I just find it fascinating. That's probably the right word. So there we go with the AoE damage. Enemies are once again closing in. We can also start using the Volker ultimate. Enemy is closing in. Use Hex's ultimate. Anything else we need to pay attention to? Not really. Once these enemies cross the bend, so around this part right here, that is when we want to start with Astrid, so we have the time to kill the archers. We want to kill the archers before these guys reach, otherwise we don't have enough block between the two characters to block everyone. And once again we can lead off with a Falcia ultimate. So enemies are closing in, once they're getting close to reaching, you can activate your Isolde's ultimate, so you get that extra block. You see the archers are dying, so now we have enough block to block everybody else. Hex has done his job. As soon as Hex has done his job, you can remove him. And yeah, that is pretty much the way of things, right? There isn't much in the way of HP needed for your platform units, because of the fact that you're only removing Hex, and that only once, really. I mean, technically twice. No, I guess you could say once, right? But yeah, you're really not removing your units a lot, which means the boss doesn't really empower itself by like any significant margin. And yeah, that's pretty much at the end of the day the stage. If you time every ult properly, you'll have your Edith ready in time again for them to pretty much cross the bend, so she can take care of the archers. So once again, you have enough block. Keep in mind, you have a emergency Laurel, though if you are using Laurel, you do need a bit more HP on your units, just in case that when you make the boss stronger, the next bloodbath right here just doesn't end up killing your units, because that would obviously be run ending. Right, you can see our Elowen isn't really built with a lot of HP. If you want to be on the safer side of things, you could be building her with more HP. So now with, again, this clone closing in, we'll activate our ultimate. We can also just bring in Hex. Let's not forget Falcia right here. And then Falcia again takes care of the middle lane. And what I liked so much is the fact that Falcia's A0. That it is possible with A0 without like any cracked to the moon and back gear. And here we're just kind of waiting for this Banshee to die. As soon as the Banshee dies, we obviously want to push back. You have to time your ultimates a bit differently when it comes to... here we also want to just add as much healing as possible so we don't lose anyone. So what I wanted to say is you also have to time it a bit differently with your Volker ultimates when you're not using an Edith, because then what you want to do is have everything cleared and kill this Banshee before any enemies arrive. So Borrowed only has this unit, this enemy to push back, because otherwise obviously you're going to get the wipeout. Here we might have triggered Astrid a bit too late, or we might just be fine. We're pretty much fine, as you can see. And yeah, that is pretty much the stage done. There's nothing that can really go wrong anymore, as far as I'm concerned. Hex obviously will at some point, hopefully, take care of the boss. We can also remove Edith here, just so Hex can do the rest. But this shouldn't pose too much of an issue. Not to worry, I was just yapping a bit too much for the last part, so I just cut that out. The fight was basically over, and I just show you the builds, right? I promised it to you, so I just show you the builds. Honestly, it's nothing special here. We just have main focus HP, some defense, some rage, important though, Bastion ring, so you get the extra block. Oleg, it's not as necessary, but you want or need something that has either the damage reduction or the ability to heal you. So for example, Unshaken Will or Guardian or whatever you can get. Just make sure you get a Norse Will in case you do lose the shield, that you do get the extra bonus. The Falcia bit we already talked about, specifically why she looks the way she does at the beginning. Then Astrid we have Infernal Roar with attack flat, then some normal stats, and then some extra HP. Here's some a bit of HP, attack percent, crit damage. So overall over 200 attack speed, around 300% attack, 150 crit damage. No inspiration on the hero on the field, meaning we need as much attack as we can get. Eye of Sin for the AoE damage. Elowin, I briefly talked about it, but yeah, we only have like 100% HP. You could go higher in HP if your Elowin gets ever closer to dying. This build as a whole is kind of weird. I think this is the one I just stole straight off from a holo, because we're looking at 150% rage region, which you obviously don't need. Just build like a normal, Elowin. Ungeared Lunaria for Hex. You just need a Sutra of Capris is exclusive. He can be A0. Then Sorbonne Arcana. The subsets don't really make too much of a difference, either attack flat, HP flat, rage region, nothing else. He's going to be able to deal with them either way, pretty much. You might have to rely on some RNG, depending on if you have him A0 or A3. Laurel, we didn't even use her, she's there just in case. And then we have Edith in tank gear, right? It doesn't truly make a difference. Tank gear just makes sure she gets the extra block. And for Volker, Infernal Roar with, just normal Infernal Roar substats, as well as attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, and a Cruel Fate as the artifact. Again, I recommend Ardea or Lubu instead of Volker, and someone that can work if you really want to. You can also try to play around with her. I did also manage to do it with her, but yeah, I guess Volker's more accessible. On to the rest. Alright, so this is the part where I'm going to show you an exciting team, and it's going to reach 60k, and Falcia is going to be a great part of it. No, unfortunately not. Like, I've played around with it quite a lot, I've thought about it. If you want Falcia to do like anything remotely close to good damage, number one, you need her A3. And number two, the damage still just isn't there. The big issue is that she just works like a normal character, right? Like, think about it. A normal character hits on his face for 100% of their damage. Falcia hits on both phases for just 50% of her damage. Yes, you have the true damage aspect, but that just isn't enough to like bridge the gap. So having a dedicated unit, yes, she can help you on both shields, but only at half efficiency. Having a dedicated unit of a certain damage type is just more advantageous. If Falcia were to swap her damage, right, if you could click a button and then she swaps between physical and magical damage, we wouldn't have this whole discussion. But it's just the problem is the concept of the character, right? Like, the only real time this ever works for Falcia, I think it's just a problem with it. It is hard to like implement something where Falcia is like truly great. If you think about it, you need a situation in which the enemy that Falcia is facing has like low magic, or let's say medium magic and medium physical resistance, which means she deals damage against both, right? But then why don't you just use a physical damage dealer if the enemy has medium physical resistance anyway? Why don't you use a magic damage dealer if the enemy has magic resistance anyway, right? So the only real time Falcia comes in is, at the end of the day, Guild Boss 2, right? Guild Boss 2, simply because of the fact that, not Guild Boss 2, Gear Dungeon 2, I'm sorry. Gear Dungeon 2, and that's simply because of the fact that there is a specific circumstance where she can deal with swapping enemies with full resistances that also punish you if you were to swap the unit. So having a unit that stays on the field is at the moment the best case scenario. Do I believe something could happen for Falcia to become incredibly good? the only thing in her kit that could still take like a huge leap would have to be this passive right here. When dealing damage, deals extra damage equal to 20% of the hero's shield strength. And that is really the only part that could massively still increase her damage, right? If somehow Northerners come back, if somehow the Elder rework makes whatever work, right? It has to be a big one. And then maybe a Gwendolyn rework or the new Tactical Mastery have a Northerner that gives shields to everyone at like humongous values. Also always keep in mind the biggest problem with shields is that they can and that they will be destroyed, especially in high damage content. High damage content does a lot of damage, meaning even, let's say you apply like a 100% shield at like, let's say 60k. You apply a 60k shield, yeah, what if the boss does 20k damage? All of a sudden it's only down to a 40k shield. So I guess like this whole damage based on shield scenario is kind of flawed, right? If it were based on initial application of the shield, like for example, you use a skill and then the shield is a 60k shield and you apply the 60k shield and then the character registers it, okay, I got a 60k shield, and no matter if the shield gets destroyed or if the shield stays or if anything happens, it still calculates with that 60k shield. That's the only real way I can see the 60k shield work. So yeah, let's go back to the Falcia rework video we did a while ago, just for like obviously the damage calculation on how this works, but also to get some idea of Falcia's single target capabilities, just so you know that she is really good at dealing damage, but she's too broad. So just so you know how much damage you can expect from a Falcia in anything that's not Abyss 1, you'll have Wukong, Arrogance, Falcia, all in the same Sword and Arcana set, equal gear, equal investment. You have a Toreador for Wukong, Arrogance, you have a Diao at A3, so the same buff for everyone, and you also have an Elder for Falcia. We honestly go through them really quickly. You can see this video at the time was 50 minutes long, so we don't quite need to take as much. So you see that at A0, your Falcia is going to do around 98 million, which is higher than what, for example, an Arrogance does, but it still not compares to an A0 Wukong. Then if we move on to A3, you see that Wukong goes all the way up to 200 million, while Falcia gains an increase up to 135 million. And then if you go and go all the way up to maximum damage, right? If you use the proper gear, full investment, you see that the gap does close. Wukong caps towards like 255 million and Falcia gets close there, hitting over 200 million, while Arrogance gets around the 170 million mark. So Falcia is definitely a hero that just gets better once you get towards like higher end gear, right? Once you can get left side gear that has perfect stats, so attack percent, crit damage, attack speed, she just gains more from it because her attack speed also gets turned into crit damage through one of her passives, right? And overall, what this should really tell you is nothing crazy in particular, but yeah, the better your gear, the better your Falcia. And the big issue with Falcia still is A1 is defensive because it gives damage reduction. A2 is just a minor stat boost. A3 is a huge stat boost, right? Because the A3 also, the higher your attack speed, every 100 attack speed, you get an 8% damage increase through the A3. But then the A4 is again slight damage increase, and the A5 isn't a damaging ult, right? This Wukong is obviously A5. This Arrogance is A5, and Falcia only needs to be A3. But there is no higher ceiling, right? A3 is the end of things because there's no offensive A5. So she could beat more, but her A5 obviously is nothing offensive. And yeah, that is pretty much the state of things when it comes to Falcia, right? There has to be a unrealistically good shift in the Northerner side of things, and I still believe the fact that Falcia only does 50% for whatever you need rather than 100% for what you truly need, it does hurt her in the long run She's still an amazing hero. She does good damage. She looks amazing. She has one of my favorite kits. She has the nice factions, but it's just not there, right? This like meta shifting, whatever finite potential. So yeah, if you, right, like when Hero Shield reduces damage taken, it does not matter. It does not matter. If you want a really strong Falcia, you need that attack speed so that you can get boost your all heroes damage by 8%. Like for example, with this Falcia build, you'll be looking at 444 attack speed total, so that would be 4 times 8, so that's like 32% damage increase. If you push it by another 60, you're looking at a 40% damage increase. And where's the talent? No wait, I think I'm even misremembering stuff, right? The important part though, Falcia needs the attack speed, and for Falcia it is quite useful. And again, the better gear you get, right, the better your Falcia. But overall, she's not a must pull, right? If you're not going into this with like 400 summons, I wouldn't be comfortable recommending you to summon for Falcia. Especially stay away if you already have her. Alright? I think that's basically it. And as always, we see each other in the next one. Peace!